Thank you for tuning in to the Clay Edwards Show here, wherever you may be watching this video. Real quick, it's brought to you by the free testosterone screenings at Men's Health of Mississippi. Ladies, don't let the name fool you. You are welcome to take advantage of the free testosterone screenings as well. All you got to do is text my name, all caps, Clay, to 601-327-8550. Just a few of the symptoms that could be brought on by low testosterone include, but are not limited to, fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, that's your sex drive, brain fog, and even sleep disturbances. It helped my mental health and depression a lot too, believe it or not. Again, text my name, 601-327-8550. Text Clay to 601-327-8550, and they're going to get you hooked up out there at their Madison office. That's Men's Health of Mississippi. So, circling back to 2019,
yeah,
and congratulations on your success with the radio
that.
show. We, like I said, we kind of started about the same time.
Yeah,
and it's been fun to watch everybody find their public voice. Circling back to 2019, when during that election, I heard your name get brought up a little bit as a potential gubernatorial candidate in 2019. Was there any substance to that? Did you consider it?
I think the Clarion Ledger actually even had me featured as a prospective candidate. I really didn't. However, on a related note, I did have an interest in seeking a U.S. Senate seat, and had thought seriously about that. And so, if you remember, Cindy Hyde-Smith was, of course, appointed by Governor Phil Bryant to the seat that was vacated by Senator Thad Cochran. But she would be up for re-election in 2020, the presidential cycle. So it's 2019. I started putting feelers out and talking to folks, and was getting a lot of encouragement to possibly throw my hat in the ring for that particular seat. And I thought about it, and Governor Phil Bryant heard about it on the street and was not too happy. And the governor and I have a great relationship, sure, by the way. But he called me to come meet with him about it, and he let me know that he thought I had the tools to be a fine senator, but that he was be supporting. Of course, he appointed Senator Hyde-Smith, but he also let me know that President Trump would be supporting her as well. And that he had the relationship with President Trump, and he still does to this day. He talks to him.
No point swimming upstream.
Yeah, and so at that point, I just put that kind of on the back burner and put that on hold. No regrets about that. And I don't have any issues with Senator Hyde-Smith whatsoever. In fact, I attended a fundraiser at Governor Bryant's office Monday for her, contributed to her campaign. Happy to do that, and got to spend a lot of time with her at the RNC convention as well. She was a delegate.
That's right. You were there. I saw you on TV.
Yeah, had a lot of fun with that. So, but from a policy perspective, I enjoy federal policy. I know a lot about tax policy, healthcare policy. Most of that is kind of handled at the federal level more than it is the state level. It's sort of a different set of issues at the state level. And so that's, I think, a pretty valuable skill to have as a U.S. Senator. I know a lot about economic policy, business, and stuff like that.
Well, that's what I was going to get. But it's harder to make a difference up there.
I totally agree.
If let's just say, let's play what if the opportunity came to run for governor and you decided to do it here this next cycle, when it's an open primary, what is some things that you think, if you were to do it, would be some policy that you would like to? I mean, we got some momentum here in Mississippi, but what are some things that Gerard would like to see if you had the opportunity? Changes.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So I'm going to back up a little bit on just to kind of give you some background that I think will make sense to you when I share this with you. My interest in being a U.S. Senator, you made the point, it's so hard to make a difference, and it is, especially if your party's in the minority. Mm-hmm. You can't get anything done.
It feels like it's easier to make generational change in state here.
I agree.
If you're governor.
I agree.
Or lieutenant governor.
I totally agree. But my interest and my vision as a senator was to pursue my passion from a public policy and political perspective, public service perspective, which is economic development. And I felt like that it's not that I'm going to cast a vote materially different than any of our senators do today, for example. I've had some that I've quarreled with. I'm sure you have too.
Sure.
And I'm not brash about pointing those out, and I'll provide the rationale for why I oppose these votes. But in general, that really wasn't it. I felt like as a U.S. Senator, I could be effective at working on economic development for the state. That a U.S. Senator, I think, you pick up the phone and call any CEO in America, and I don't care what state they're from, they're going to talk to them. They're going to take their call. And I like the idea of being involved in that, working with our economic development teams across the state in that regard. Now, where else can you effectively do that? Governor, obviously. And I personally think the governor should be the chief economic developer for the state.
The leader of tourism and everything.
Absolutely. Should be the ambassador, the head cheerleader, whatever you want to call it, for the state. That's always been my vision of the role of governor. I think we've had governors, the Haley Barbour, Phil Bryant, Tate Reeves, that have all excelled in that category. I mean, the numbers don't lie with respect to that. And we've got a lot, as you talked about, a lot of momentum going in that regard. So I would say, Clay, that first and foremost, they've got to focus on economic development and addressing the fact that we have the lowest per capita income in the country, we have the lowest household income in the country. We just have to be honest about it. We're a poor state, and I'm tired of being 50th. I want to ascend off the bottom. I'm tired of subsidizing the other states with our best talent. Yep. We've got these fantastic universities, and there's a lot of talk lately about all the taxpayer money that goes to these DEI programs, which I've been railing on, by the way, going back to 2020 after the George Floyd incident.
I 100% agree with Shad.
I do too.
On that. And I've been a little sideways with the book and all that stuff. I'm not a fan, but I 100% agree with him on the DEI stuff. And I lost my passion for college football through the George Floyd stuff, and then marching down the streets, just basically telling everybody that didn't agree with that they were a racist again. I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to focus my attention over here on politics. I'm not going to let a bunch of 18-year-olds on the football field ruin my week anymore.
It makes sense. But think about this. So I agree with Shad as well. And by the way, the amount of money, and I've pointed out many examples on the show, the crazy amount of people and how big these organizations are and money across the country that all these universities have invested in. And I can't tell what the heck they're producing. I would say nothing but strife and contention and animosity, honestly. But that being said, all the other money, which is way more than we're spending on DEI to educate people at our universities, all it's doing is helping the other states because they bolt out of state before the ink's dry on their diploma. There's no place for them to work.
I heard Shad bring up, we're giving scholarships for these useless degrees.
No doubt.
As well, that we need to just nip that in the bud.
Completely
I
agree.
always joke around, call it, I think the conservative joke is underwater basket weaving degrees.
No doubt about it.
And all that. It's like, what are we doing here?
And many of those people are unemployable or underemployed, and that's a problem as well. All of that, I think, needs to be investigated. But I do believe that the governor ought to be first and foremost the economic developer, the ambassador, the cheerleader, and then secondarily be involved in shaping policy and guiding policy, but mainly policy that facilitates that economic development. The regulatory framework, the tax environment that stimulates business investment and is an asset in attracting new business, new talent to our state. And then, of course, education is a big part of our state government. It's what we spend most of our money on, and true in all the states. Our educational system needs to be sound to produce the talent we need to staff the jobs that we hope to create from bringing in these new companies. So that's my vision, really, for the governor. Everything stems from that, in my view, Clay. If you think about our most pressing issues, whether it's crime or poverty or health care or in cases where we have bad educational outcomes in certain districts, almost all of that stems from economic issues. It all starts there.
So I know 3 years is a long time away, but you got to make a decision here in the next year and a half or so. If it's something you're going to be interested in, is you're not going to rule it out yet, huh?
No, I'm not ruling it out. I mean, I'm enjoying my work now with Supertalk, and they've been really good to me. And I'd like to think, just like you, that my voice makes a bit of a difference. It influences people, and that it's heard by policymakers and lawmakers. And many of them have said, sometimes I learned stuff from you I didn't know what was going on in here.
Yeah, I got interviewed the other day and got asked that question, would I ever consider, running for anything? And of course, I have no statewide aspirations at all, but I was like, I moved out of Jackson to Rankin County because they were doing things right. And if I felt like I'm more of a base, very extremely local city council, board of aldermen type guy, like I can make an immediate difference in my backyard, that would be the only thing I would ever consider. But they're doing a good job where I live.
Yeah.
And, it's not a situation in Jackson that would ever work out for someone like me to move back to Jackson and try to run for anything. But I think in my position, my voice is more important, or can be more useful in swaying more people than any one vote at a city council meeting ever could.
I totally agree. I'll say that I've been blessed. The state's been good to me. This is my home. I moved back here to start my company. I could have started my company with anybody, anywhere, and I landed a fantastic partner who was with me for 33 years. We met working at the same firm, and like a brother to me. His kids were like my kids were like his kids, and we just had a great run. But if the company we built here would have been built in what we call an NFL city, I could have retired 20 years ago with a whole lot more money.
Sure.
But I came back here because I wanted to make a difference in Mississippi. I wanted to live and raise my family in Mississippi. And I was willing to, I guess, forego the greater financial opportunity in those other big cities to start everything here. And I don't regret that whatsoever. I want to give back. I'll be honest with you. I want to leverage that accumulated knowledge and skill to give back. And I think that would be a great role to do that.
I just turned 47 last week. At 47 right now, the next 15, 20 years for me is about creating a legacy, and like really kind of leaving my skid marks on this town or this state, so to say.
Sure.
And that's kind of where my focus, and that's what you did. And you've absolutely left a legacy, and you helped put Mississippi on the map, especially from a technology standpoint, when Mississippi probably wasn't. People were probably shocked to hear that you were calling from Mississippi, or that this company was based out of Mississippi. Y'all have running water down there?
You get that so joke right all the time about that. But I got to tell you, man, I poke my chest out every chance, because when they would come here, it would often be most of the time, be their first visit. Mm-hmm. And we'd take them on a bit of a tour and take them to our data center out in South Jackson. Blown away. Had no idea. I mean, just totally like aghast at what they were seeing. And when I was on Wall Street, and you're mainly pitching these Ivy League folks, who are all good people, by the way. Sure. My experience with them, they think like you and I do. I got to tell you, they
just grew up different.
That's right. They're in New York, but I'm telling you, they're all about capitalism, and they're all about free markets, and they're all about limited government. And this is why the left attacks them all the time. I'm not talking about corporate CEOs. I'm talking about the private equity guys.
Money people.
Yeah, the money people, which make everything work, by the way. Without them, there is no country. It's their risk. They think like we do, but pitching them was so much fun, boasting about not my company, but a Mississippi company and something that was a successful, valuable asset. And I would tell you, I always ask them rhetorically, do you have any reservations about investing or having a financial relationship with a Mississippi-based company? I felt like the answer would always be no, and it was, and no problem whatsoever. I'm telling you, they see one thing, and that's green, and that's what you want them to see. That's what the left doesn't get.
Yeah, the old flag never cost you any money.
No, never came up. It never came up for me. Now, I can tell you in my economic development experience, we have had some prospects that made that very clear that was a problem.
I've been very upfront about it. As much flag as I catch, I was actually for changing it. I didn't care one way or another. It didn't affect me. I've never owned a state flag. I've owned American flags. Yeah. I've never owned a state flag. It just wasn't a hot button for me.
Just eliminate it as an issue, and I think that's what we did.
We did. I think, and I hate it for the people that loved it. I get it, but also understood it growing up. As a minority around my friend group, that what it did cause for our black friends and family. So I get it. I did. It wasn't a deal breaker for me, but it is interesting to hear that it never came up like we were told it did.
Not in my personal endeavors with my company, but working at Makita in economic development, we absolutely Amazon told us they weren't coming unless the flag. Because remember, we started working on that in 2019.
Sure.
Flag was changed in 20.
Yeah,
They made it clear that was an issue.
Oh, it's definitely made a difference. I want